So hello, everybody. I'm Suzanne, and I'm your vacation rental business coach with Welcoming Wow. And I am here today with Jody Milward. Jody, if you could please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hey, Suzanne. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so looking forward to talking to you about my experiences. So I am what I would say, Facebook ad strategist and coach. So I mentor ad strategists around the world as they run Facebook ads for clients. So that's something I fell into. I'm an accidental entrepreneur, went this way because, had 3 little kids, and doing so has opened up a whole new world for me. I've been able to travel quite a bit. Like I've got from Australia over to America. While the pandemic was even going, the government let me out of the country when Australians weren't allowed to leave the country. So I've been on a big 400-seat plane with just 20 people on there. And so that's quite an experience. And then by that as well, I've been able to go off and, rent quite a few places along the way for events and also just for personal reasons. So, so I'm sort of feeling quite experienced with my travel sort of stuff and have learned a lot along the way.
Nice. So if you were to ballpark it, how many times do you think you've stayed in a vacation rental?
Yeah, so look, oh my gosh, I would be saying it'd be at least 2 dozen, so 24 times or more. So I quite often will look at like VRBO or Airbnb, or Allura Direct is another one that we've looked at for. We've got a Canadian ski trip coming up in January, if Canada lets everybody in by then. And so booking a house directly that way there as well. So yeah.
Nice. So what would you say then that your travel style is? Are you normally traveling for business, for pleasure, family? What is it, do you think?
Yeah. So a lot of it is business. So like I will go to a conference or an event, and if allows, I'll stay at an Airbnb if it's somewhere close by to it, if it's not a hotel with accommodation. So I have done a lot more, probably more lately, with business style. And then the family holidays, like I said, we've got one coming up. Those ones, they've been longer stays, right? So the business ones I'll do for 2-3 days or so, maybe a week for an event. So a lot of short stays, whereas with the family ones, less of them, but longer stays.
Okay, nice. So it's primarily for business and a little bit for family then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you want to either tell us about your one big example, or in general, what you think your travel frustrations and fears are, or if you want to combine all that together.
Oh, okay. So I've had 2 big learning experiences most recently, like in the last, within the last year. One of them was, it was a house. It was for an event. So we're going to be there for a week. And we got in and it was just grotty. Like there was chip packets, crumbs, all sorts of stuff under a lounge. And then there was a face mask that was left in a bedroom, and a t-shirt, and the toothbrush. If you've got a rental place, don't ever have a toothbrush holder there, right? Because we know we put the toothbrush in, drips down, grot city. Okay, so don't do it. So this house that we went to had all these issues. And we paid extra for the heating for the pool and for the spa. And for me, so this was down in Florida, and we had in November. And so we had a lot of ladies coming from the northern states. So the hot tub and the warm pool in Florida, essential. The heating didn't work. So going back and looking at it, it was that seemed to be a common theme. So from there, I realized that was my first real negative experience of being, I've been played here a bit, I think, because it's like, well, they lure you in, they say you can get the heating, you're there, you're not going anywhere, we just give you the refund for the heating. Still, you're out, you don't have the pool, you don't have the spa, which was, essential part of it all. And then we called up and contacted about the cleaning. They sent the cleaner back. There was like a settee, like those chairs that have like the little buttons with the indents. They had all crumbs in them, all sorts of other things. We have this list of all this stuff. And so when she came in, she's just picking the crumbs out. And it's like, get a vacuum. my faith in the cleaning and how you say it is so clean and whatever, this was, like COVID times, is not reassuring me here at all. So and from there, and then we discovered on the last day, someone pulled the sheets back and the opposite side of the bed they were sleeping on had some brown marks, like as if you'd scratched your leg. And it was like, okay, if only we saw this at the start of the trip. So anyway, and this was through Airbnb and the property manager. And that was my first experience of like going, oh, okay, you're actually property managers here and not the owner directly. They were keen to get the conversation off Airbnb. And from that experience, I learned to keep it on Airbnb. And then also they were saying, okay, so we'll give you half the price back if you, half the cost of the rental back, if we do this. And I said, well, fine, but I'm not going to be leaving a positive review. I'm still going to be leaving an honest review. And they said, well, then we won't give you any refund, because what's the point of that? And it was like, oh, so you're blackmailing me now.
Wow.
And taking it to Airbnb, they didn't care, because this was like on a phone call. There was no trace of it. So they didn't care. And so I thought about that for a bit, and it's like, well, I'm not going to give you that pleasure. So I still gave them a negative review, and I said, I'm foregoing any refund, because they said if I leave a negative review, they would not refund me. So I'm foregoing that and giving an honest review. And it just made me aware of like, how many other people is that happening to, where they will just say, this was a great stay, because they've been paid to be quiet, right? Sure. So that was my first one. That was about 6 months ago. And then the recent one that I had, we were in Las Vegas, and my alarm bells started going off before we checked in, and I started getting all the notifications that were saying, if anybody asks you what you're doing there, say, I decline to answer. Do not let anyone in. Do not open the door. If anyone asks you anything, I decline to answer. And I was like, what is this? I've never had this. And then I since found out, like Las Vegas, owned by the hotels, if you're inside the certain radius, then it's not a legal short stay. And it's like, what the heck is going on with this? So as we were driving up, I was feeling a bit uncomfortable. I could see it was a bit of a seedy kind of area. And so from my previous experience in November, where it was like, well, you should have left straight away. You shouldn't have stayed there if you weren't happy with it. It's like, right, we're going in and we're checking out. There was a camera inside pointing at the door. Apparently lights go off if you're outside and it goes over 50 decibels or something. And it was just not accurate. Like the furniture was different than what was in the pictures. You could smell the grease trying to cut through the cleaning products over the top. And then again, the spa, big thing, the spa, it was full of dirt. Like it was 3/4 full of water and just dirt all over the seats and everything. And so I was saying, this, and this. And they go, yes, sorry, the spa is not operational. What the heck? So I'd learned from that. And so I said, right, we're out of here straight away. So I started messaging them saying, this is not appropriate. It's not accurate, And they had that hour to respond, and then it goes to Airbnb. So at least like with that one, I was, and from now on, it's like, okay, I'm onto it. I know what to expect. And it took like 10 days to get a refund back from that one. And it was only when, I'd been sending Airbnb messages every day. I'd been following up with these people every day, and they were so ambiguous. It was like, okay, we're so sorry. Enjoy the rest of your travels. And it was like, so you give me a refund here, or is that you're acknowledging you're giving me a refund? Right. So with that, so I just, kept going. And it was only after I got the message saying, review your stay. And it was like, I didn't stay here. Read the things. And then I got the message from Airbnb saying they have reviewed you as a guest. And they said, Jody was a great guest. And that's when I replied and said, I didn't even stay there. I canceled straight away. Right. And that's when I got the refund, right? So, so I've certainly learned to be a bit more on guard, what to look for. And, like looking at the reviews as well, like really paying more attention. I know there's always going to be, if people aren't happy, they're going to leave a review. People are probably more likely to leave a review if they're not happy versus than if they are happy, right? So pay attention to the reviews. And also for me now, I will look for those ones that are super hosts, because I'll have more faith and trust in those guys being, providing the correct kind of experience.
Yeah.
So that was
Okay.
that's all my experiences.
So you learned a lot, unfortunately, by bad experiences.
Yes,
Okay.
unfortunately. Yeah.
So we'll turn this then to a little bit better topic. So when you are starting your search for a vacation rental, what is your top must-have in a vacation rental typically?
Oh, okay. Top must have. Well, like I said, these days I'm looking for the ones that are the super hosts. So
Okay.
that's what I'm looking for. So other than that, other things that I would be looking for as I would go to them, well, it depends. Like for my events with my ladies, we're looking for a pool or a spa or something like that.
Okay.
Other than that, I guess it's kind of vicinity to where we might be going. So, for example, our trip that's going over in January, our family trip, we're actually going to head down to Anaheim and we're going to Disney. So as I was looking at that one, it's like, okay, so what's in proximity to there? What's got the number of bedrooms that we're going to need, right? There's 6 adults going.
Okay.
And so they were a couple of our main things: bedrooms and bathrooms and vicinity. And that it looks good, right? It looks good, nice, tidy.
Yeah. Now, do you ever look on any social media for vacation rentals, or is it strictly VRBO and Airbnb and the other one that you mentioned?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. No, I haven't looked on social media. I'll do a Google search. When I look at the place and it gives me the general area of where it is, I'll then go to Google Maps and I'll have a look then. And because I was a private investigator in my past life as well. So I'll go to Google Maps, I'll have a look at the area, like for the fields. It's like, okay, what's the terrain? Where's that looking at? Is there roads and all sorts of stuff? So, yeah.
Okay. So is there anything else when you're searching that if you see it, you're an automatic no?
Okay. See it and it's an automatic no. For me, if it's just looking, if it's looking old and tired, right? It's got to have, and this is a part that's different for anyone, but it's like, I want to see it and I want to see it look sort of welcoming and homey and light and bright. Okay. That's something that I would like, right? Otherwise, if it's looking too dark, dingy, and the furniture's looking sort of a bit old and not a bit of TLC. Like, I mean, it doesn't cost much to do a bit of styling, like a nice blanket here or a pot plant there can make a huge difference to how it all feels. So if it's not looking welcoming like that, then in my own head, this is where I'm going, okay, it looks a bit dark and dingy. You can kind of maybe imagine how it smells and it might be a bit cold and all those kind of things. So it's got to look good.
Okay, good point. All right. So when you were searching for your last day or the one that you maybe just booked, I'm assuming had kind of in your mind exactly what you were looking for. Did you find exactly what you were looking for? Or did you have to compromise a little?
Yeah, so like for the upcoming ski trip one, we've sort of compromised in that. We've got the number of rooms that we want. However, we're not as close into the village. So we're out a little way from the village, but it's got all the rooms we want. It's got a view, right? So that was another important part of this one. It's like, it's got to have a great view. So it's got all of those things. So it pretty much ticks the boxes, and we just got a bit of a longer walk up to get a coffee in the morning.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, did it tick enough boxes for you and check them, most of them? And you were like, you know what, I can live without it being a 2-minute walk and it can be a 8-minute walk instead.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All right. And then was that through Airbnb or VRBO or that other platform you were mentioning?
That was Allura Direct. It's one that, I'd booked from that one years ago, like when we went to Canada back in 2014. And my sister had used Allura before. So it was known to her. So she referred it to me. Otherwise, yes, admittedly, if I was just Googling and if it came up, I probably would have been a bit more suspicious. So I would generally stick then to VRBO or Airbnb. Now, another one is I was looking through Airbnbs and comments. because with that Vegas place, it was terrible. And I canceled. I had to race off and I was like, where are we going to stay now? I had
That's
people.
right.
So I was like traumatized. It was like, I don't want to book another Airbnb. It's going to be horrible. It's going to
Right.
be awful. So again, that's where this one was a SuperHost. It sort of assured me a bit. It all had good reviews, but as I was looking, it was like host cancelled at the last minute. So I was like, damn, that's something else to think of, that I haven't had that experience. And it's like, well, what would happen? So again, that's where it's like, and I see now Airbnb, has the thing about, whatever protection for in case your host cancels or something like that.
Yeah.
So now that's something on my radar to think of, what if they cancel?
Yeah, and that's called air cover. And so that's something that Airbnb recently put in place to try to actually protect more so the guests. But in a way, it protects the owners as well, because if you have nasty guests that ruin things or, things like that, it's there to help protect both,
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I've discovered, because like as we've looked at events, right, where there might be like 6 or 10 women there, where we're not there for a party, it's not a hens weekend or anything like that, we're just there, we're sitting at the lounge, we're talking about nerdy Facebook ads and things like that, and so you'll see a lot of them have events. And I've really got that realization of like, staying at Airbnbs in Nashville and in Vegas. It's like, a lot of the people want these as party houses, right? They just want to come in for the weekend, have a great time. So I really got an appreciation of like, okay, so from the owner's side of things, it's like, yes, you've got to manage and look after your property as well. And so that's why all these sort of rules can be there. So it's, I appreciate and respect that.
So when you're looking for events, have you ever looked anywhere else on any other site specifically that caters more towards events or space during the day that would be other than a hotel? That you would stay somewhere different, but you'd have your retreat, if you will, there.
Yeah, I have toyed with that, like looking at places like WeWork, so that we'd go there during the day, people would stay at hotels and things like that. But for us, and that's what I ended up doing as we left the Vegas place, went to the Bellagio, and I was like, what are we going to do? So I was talking there, and it was the NFL draft week. So they were booked out. Everyone was booked out. And so there was a 2-bedroom, penthouse thing. And it was like, well, we could stay there and then people could stay in their individual rooms. But for us, it's the whole experience of being together, right? And staying in a hotel room, you kind of lose that. So that's where when I looked at these ones, it's like, okay, the replacement house that we got had like 8 bedrooms or something. Everyone got their own bedroom. So, and then we all come down, have breakfast together, hang out in the lounge, watch the Ozarks together. So it really just, provides a great experience to be able to find a house that you can all be in and, still have some sort of space. But and that's why, that's an important part of why we get away, right? Because we want to get away from everything else and spend time with those people that we're with. And so that's why, getting a house is such a great, valuable thing.
So at these retreats that you do, especially when they're at places like that, do you have like a private chef to come in and cook for you, or does somebody else do that?
That is a great question. So for our next one, we were saying if we go here, like we were looking at maybe a Cabo or something like that, now Mexico. And it's like, we could get a chef to come in and do the meals, which would be awesome. But at the moment, no. What we have done in the past is we've got Instacart, right? So Instacart will do a few orders that'll come in, get Uber Eats to deliver some meals. So that's something else that, yes, I look at when we're going, okay, where are we going to go? So with this replacement house for Vegas, for example, it was like, how far is it from here? Because we've got this booked. Where's the, what is an Uber close by? So I will actually go to the Uber app as well and go, okay, so if this is the address and we're wanting to go here, what's the time frame like? Because again, on my recent trip, I was somewhere where we were a bit out of the way and it was so hard to get an Uber, and other people called Ubers and they were canceling on them and they were trying to get to the airport. So again, so it's like, okay, is it serviceable in an area where you can get an Uber and a Lyft? Because, we're there. I come from Australia. I don't hire a car while I'm over there. So making sure that that sort of stuff's accessible there as well.
Sure. Good points. Yeah. There's a lot to look at when you're doing that. Yeah. So if you found the absolute perfect place, so like for your upcoming trip, you compromised a little bit, but let's say you found something that checked every single box, but it was $200 a night more than what you were originally going to spend. Would you still go ahead and book it, or would you be like, no, I got to compromise?
I'd book it.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, man, I want the experience, right? I am at a point in my life where it's like, I've worked hard for a lot of years. I want to enjoy when I go away and experience something. When I'm doing an event with my ladies, it's like, I want them to enjoy
Sure.
the next level or the upgrades and appreciate, wow, this is nice, and to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So
Sure.
yes, so I certainly will. I'll go the
I had a feeling that's what you'd say, but just wondering for sure. So in the past, before your most recent bad experience, were you usually 100% honest in your feedback when you left reviews before? And did you leave reviews? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would be honest, and they would probably tend to be shorter, right? So I would just, previously I'd likely say, yep, host correspondence was great. They followed up promptly with things, would definitely stay here again. Okay, that would probably be a review. So now, for example, with this latest one, the great house that we got after leaving the bad review for the dirty spa was like, host was amazing. The venue was beautiful. There was like, a sauna and a spa, and it said the amenities were excellent. It's exactly how it is in the photos, right? To assure people that, yes, this is how it looks, because now I know that, no, it doesn't always happen that way.
Right.
So it is, it is exactly how it looks, and actually even better. So yeah, so I will elaborate a bit more now.
Sure. Okay. So did you hear from your host, the good one, let's say, did you hear from that host after your stay, other than maybe responding to your review? Have you got any emails or anything like that?
I did get some, yeah. So other than just that, they've left a review about you, it'd be like, hey, thanks for staying with us, really appreciate it. And they also, I got a message from them, like I think it was the day before we were leaving, with a special deal to say, hey, that it's available for an extra night. If you'd like to stay an extra night, it's at this discounted rate. And I was like, aha, like being a marketer myself, it's like, love the upsell there, love the whatever. Yeah. But we already had something else booked, because otherwise I could have gone, yeah, that would be great.
It's a great opportunity for hosts to do that. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. So have you gotten any like direct marketing through email from them since then?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So if you got something, you wouldn't be opposed, and you may even consider staying there again if you were in Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely would consider staying there again. If I was doing an event there, the trouble for me is like me and the people who come to my events, we like to move around and go to new places. So it's like, oh, find somewhere just as nice or just as good as this.
Sure.
But yeah, if I was ever going back there, or if I knew anyone going there, I'd say definitely check it.
Or if they had a different property in a different area, you're willing to hear about those as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I did that with one. I did have a penthouse that I got in San Diego one time. And so it was, they had a few properties. So yes, I definitely looked at theirs. Oops, sorry. No worries. I turned all my noises off. We went back for a family trip. We were going back to Hollywood, and I knew LA, and I knew they had some property in LA. So I went and looked there first, because I had such a good experience. Right. I went and, do you guys have anything here as well? So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what would be 2 items of advice that you would give to all vacation rental owners?
Okay. Well, one thing, which on this latest house, which was fabulous, the only bit that kind of was a bit disappointing for it was when we were going to check in, and I know they probably get this all the time, we were going to check in, and it's like, can we get in a bit earlier? So they said, okay. And there was no one in the house before us, the night before. So the cleaners weren't there going through things. They said, okay, we can let you in at 3 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock, but any earlier than that will be an extra $50 an hour. And I was like, really, that's a bit disappointing for the amount that I'm paying for the house. And you can't just, there's no one in there and you can't just say, sure, go on in at, 12 o'clock or something like that.
Right.
So that was disappointing. Because it's little things like that, like, that's tiny. However, it's kind of like, oh, that was a dampener. That was the only thing. So if there is any opportunity to do a bit of an extra wow factor, like as we got in there, there was this bucket, it was a popcorn bucket. It had packets of popcorn that we could microwave. I think there was a bottle of wine and all that kind of stuff because there was a SuperHost. And, now I kind of expect that kind of thing. However, if you're not a SuperHost, is there something small like that? I know it probably depends on their state if they're allowed to, but something that's just a little bit of a wow factor so that when people go, wow, like even if it's just a card that's saying, hey, enjoy your stay or something like that, that goes, oh, wow, that's a nice personal touch. So I find those kind of things are great. And I know, like, yes, there's a lot of property managers doing things now and the automations and whatever. Some sort of follow-up that would be like, hey, just checking in. Did you get in all right? Do you have any questions about anything? So that kind of follow-up as well is always, something that's like, oh, that's really nice and considerate, right?
Sure. So is there anything I didn't ask you about that you just think that you want to make sure that you tell the world about vacation renting?
Well, no, it's pretty well covered. I'm just very conscious of my big seems like a rant now at the start of these horrible things, but I've learned from them and it's like, okay, I'm making better decisions, reading the reviews more, paying more attention to those, doing maybe some further research, and then just also looking at, okay, well, how long have these guys actually been around for? And really looking for any negative experiences. Like I said, there are always just cranky people around who will leave negative reviews, but yes, so just paying a bit more attention, not maybe being quite so trustworthy and honest, but just doing a bit more research for the places that and then also paying a bit extra going with the SuperHost.
Sure.
So if you can be a SuperHost, be a SuperHost. That's what I'd recommend.
I mean, it can take, so when somebody starts their vacation rental business or launches that property, they have to have a certain number of stays, or people had to have stayed there a certain number of nights. They have to make sure they're getting the 5-star reviews, things like that. So there is criteria, whether it's VRBO or Airbnb, that a host needs to meet. And sometimes when they're brand new, that can take a little bit longer than they really want. And then they only review it, like every quarter. So they may quickly get what they need, but they're sitting there like, I need to get that SuperHost. And they really want it because they know that people are searching like that, So it's like, I gotta get to SuperHost. Just get me there.
It's like my ad managers as they start out, right? It's like, I need case studies, I need testimonials, I'm just starting out. So it's that same sort of thing. So it's like, I guess as doing that, it's like, how can you create that bit of an extra wow factor, give people that bit more attention so that, you make sure you get those 5-star reviews, which I'm sure you're helping people with that side of the things.
That's what I'm working on. Yeah, so I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking with you, Jody.
Pleasure. Thank you, Suzanne. It was been a pleasure being here with you, and thanks for letting me tell you all my the goods and bads of my experiences.
Of course. Thank you.